Ladies and gentlemen, there is a Manhattan Bound 7 train approaching Hunters Point Avenue.
Film shows us life by chemically capturing information reflected through light. This information is contained in the celluloid in a manner which allows us to see life in more detail than our eyes allow. Usually, the camera advances once a slide is exposed, allowing you to take an entirely new photograph. However, if you break off a certain internal lever, you can expose one slide multiple times. That may sound overly technical, but if you look at this photo, you should see what I mean. A photo like this is able to communicate so much to me. The stories don't become muddled, but rather combined. By shooting similar geometric patterns, I ensured that the vertical lines here would match up, in a way that seems to suggest a greater meaning. I delight in asking people to reflect on this because everyone seems to interpret the unity of these images in vastly different ways. It amazes me what is technically an imperfection in the camera can combine two everyday objects to suggest something telling about the world in which we live. This is the last photo I was able to develop on this roll of film, because I unknowingly washed out the second half of the roll. The meter on my camera that tells me how many shots I have left malfunctioned. Unfortunately, this led to the rest of the roll becoming overexposed to an unworkable degree. However, for some reason, only half of this photo became washed out. I tried to capture my good friend Monica doing something mundane in her life, waiting for the train. Clearly, I didn't capture this moment exactly as it happened. The film messed up, resulting in a much more surreal image, which distorts reality. What fascinates me is how much more interesting the story is now. The camera took something mundane and is showing it to us in a way that seems hyper-realistic. To me, this made me realize that if something so everyday can be seen in a manner so captivating, the aspects in our life we assume to be universal can be seen and interpreted in jarringly different ways through different apertures. Today, selfies are a ubiquitous art form. I don't feel like I've ever been able to take a photo of myself that expresses who I am. Part of me feels I don't have long enough arms, but I think it's deeper than that. I like capturing moments in my photos. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and I always want to make sure that every one of them says something. Usually by the time I've set up a tripod, decided where I want to stand, and set up the shot, my pictures feel so manufactured that I can't connect with them, especially of myself. That to me is why this picture is so special. You can't really see my face, and you can't really identify me, but I think I caught myself in a real moment. I'm doing something I love, and in taking my own photo like this, I feel like I was able to capture at least a hint of what drives me as a photographer. It's much blurrier than I would like, and you can't tell where I am. But at the same time, I've never minded, because that's not what I'm trying to communicate. This is Cole Watazik. We met several years ago, and he's always been one of my best friends. One of the things I've always liked about Cole is that he is one of the most content people I've ever met. He never shoots an idea down, and he's always happy to listen. His music taste is fascinating to me. Obviously, most of his songs are from a different era, but he's always content to try, or often subject himself, to new music. Before this photo, I had never taken a film shot in such a low light condition. To make it work, I had to hold my hands ridiculously still. I let my shutter speed drop to 1/30th of a second, and I took the photo. I always think that it reminds me slightly of John Lennon, which is really appropriate for Cole. I like something about this. To me, it feels like I've captured a moment. Anybody who has spent time in Boston will probably understand this photograph better than anyone. By now, you've probably gathered that the streets are a topic which fascinate me. There's so much life going on around, and even the things around us which aren't alive reflect greatly on the ways in which we live. Even if we focus our attention on different things, we can't escape the similarities in our own ways, which bind us all together. I like this photo because I feel that the composition of the image draws your eye exactly where it needs to go. I am sure this man is familiar to many of you. Most people call him Pop, for reasons I'm unsure of. However, after speaking to him for a while, I got him to confide in me that his real name is Jeremy. He's a break dancer, and he supports himself by publicly pouring himself into his art. Tourists, and even myself, delight in the way he can contort his body. Here, he has just lined up a few willing participants who he will subsequently flip over. Regardless of what interests us in this photo, I think it's undeniable that you can't help but focus your attention somewhere. I have never dislocated my shoulder. I may not love everything about myself, but I'm very grateful that that's true about me. I am especially grateful that I have never inflicted this pain on myself willingly. This man has. For 20 years near Quincy Market, Chaucer has contorted his body in various ways. Many of them seem quite painful, but all of them are very interesting to watch. As a child, Chaucer was inspired to become an escape artist, as he grew up reading tales of the great Harry Houdini. Now, several times a week, he trusts complete strangers to bind him in a straitjacket, hoist him upside down, and challenge him to escape. Obviously, his 20 years in the business has taught him something, given the obvious fact that he's not still hanging up there. Though he supports himself financially by doing this, I sense that he takes a great deal in pride at entertaining such large crowds. In his heart, this man is a performer. The photo I have chosen to show to you is quite blurry, but I have come to like that. It seems to illustrate to me the control Chaucer exerts over a situation which would be quite precarious to most.